everyone, and welcome to another episode of Clarity in the Chaos, in which we attempt to bring some vertical clarity into the midst of our horizontal chaos. And at times, one of the things that gives us clarity is a good word from someone else, someone who has some experience, someone who has some faith, and who has walked where we are walking. So today, in our final chapter in the book of Proverbs, we find a section of verses here written from someone who has some experience, written to someone who needs some direction. So we're looking at chapter 31. We're going to look at verses 1 through 9 today, a good section here. And it starts off and says, "The words of King Lemuel, the utterance which his mother taught him." So some good words from a king, from his mother, and some things that he learned from her. And there's valuable wisdom in this entire chapter, but the first part is critical for us because it talks about a king and counsel that his mother gave him. Here is how you live like a king. Here is how you live with clarity in the midst of a world that is chaotic. Here are some things that are important, she said to her son, a man who's a king who gives counsel to us today. It goes on and it says in verse 2, "What, my son, and what son of my womb, and what son of my vows?" And then here comes the counsel that's so critical for us today. "Do not give your strength to women, nor your ways to that which destroys kings." Everything that's said in following this is based on this truth. She says, and he says, you are king material. You have royal blood. Now, make sure that you don't give yourself to anything that would cause you to live less than king blood, than royalty. Now, you and I, as followers of Jesus Christ, have been put in a bloodline of royalty. We have been made children of the King. So we are called to live as kings, as heirs, as those who have received his blessing, his inheritance. We are seated with him in heavenly places. We reign with him, will reign with him. So you and I are called to live as royalty. And here is what she says through him, what he says to us. "It is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes intoxicating drink, lest they drink and forget the law and pervert the justice for all the afflicted." She says, as a king, it's important that you keep your head clear. Keep your heart clear. You're different than others. You have a different responsibility than others. You have a higher calling than others. Don't get yourself as a king into a situation in which you're going to be inebriated, intoxicated with the ways of the world, or lose your ability to make a wise decision and judge righteously, to be able to bring justice for all the afflicted. Your role as a king is to lead, is to be an example, is to be an influencer. So do not get into the place where you are unable to do that. And she says specifically, do not get involved with alcohol. It will take you to a place in your head and your heart where you're going to misjudge, where you're not going to be the example that you were called to be. Now she goes on, verse 6, and says, "Give strong drink to him who is perishing, and wine to those who are a bitter heart. Let him drink and forget his poverty, and remember his misery no more." So there's a place for alcohol and being intoxicated, but it's for those who are at the end of their life, for those who are in such great misery they don't know how to recover. They need to just forget their struggle, their pain that they're in. They need some ease and relief from where they are. And she says, but that's not you. You're a king. You're royalty. You have a role. You have a responsibility. It's time to rise above that. Lemuel, do not let yourself get caught in this place. Do not go down this path. You have a role and a responsibility. And here's what it is in verse 8 and 9. "Open your mouth for the speechless in the cause of all who are appointed to die. Open your mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy." You're a king, Lemuel. You have a responsibility. You're to care for others. You're to look out for others who are caught in desperate places. You're to plead the cause of those who are poor and needy. You're going to need to be able to judge righteously. You're going to need to be able to make some decisions about what's right and wrong. So for that reason, Lemuel, keep your head and your heart clear. You're going to need to be able to see accurately. You're going to need to be able to make decisions that will keep you from being confused as to what is right and what is wrong. Don't make decisions based on emotion. Make decisions based on truth. Don't make decisions based on your head being foggy and unclear and uncertain. You need to be able to make wise, just, and righteous decisions. This is your responsibility as a king. So for us today, as we attempt to bring some clarity into our life, God says to us, you are my child. I've called you to a role and responsibility. You are to be those that are the head and not the tail, according to the promises of the Old Testament. You're to be ones who are ambassadors for Christ, representing God. You're the ones who point the way to what reconciliation is about. You have the message of salvation. You have the message of hope. Do not let yourself be drowned out, intoxicated, led astray by anything that would keep you from being able to make righteous judgments and decisions. Be clear. Be influential, plead the cause of others, live to set others free, live to help others see with clarity. This is where your real clarity comes from, when you realize who you are, when you know you're a king, when you live for someone else beyond yourself, when you pick up the cause of the poor and the needy. And we all have them in our life. We have those around us who need some decisions, some help, some clarity, some hope, some counsel. This is your role. You've been called to this task. Don't live for anything less than that. Don't let anything take you lower than that responsibility, that calling. When you rise up into who you are, when you know what God's called you to be, then you will have the clarity to stay focused, to avoid temptation, and you will have clarity and purpose in life, and you will have clarity in the midst of all the chaos.